Ladies and gentlemen, it's a tremendous honor to introduce to you the Drift Across the World podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode number 2. My name's Andy Howard and again I have the laptop in front of me. Hello to everyone again on YouTube and hello to everyone listening on the audio version of the podcast. Again, I have a list of questions I wrote myself for episode number 2 and let's go through them. It's again really strange to know that people are not going to be just watching the YouTube but will just be listening to my voice, so hopefully my voice isn't that irritating and you're able to listen to it. And here we go with the questions. So episode number 2, what's my background? Now again, I've written all these questions for myself and I forgot to really think about it and answer them, so here we go with my honest opinion of my background. I have quite a long history in fact of living on this earth, but we'll try to keep it down to what's relevant about this project. Good idea, Andy. So I have been involved in drifting for, I would say, 7 years now. So I remember hanging over the wall in Mondello watching these cars go sideways and I thought it was the best thing ever. So it was just extraordinary to see so many different motorsport genres all mixed into one sport. So you have like the thrill of rallying, really fast, going as fast as possible basically in a really small area, and then you had like circuit racing where people are up against each other, and you had like almost drag racing at the start, and then you have like rallycross and stuff where you're kind of bumping off each other around corners. So for me, it was almost like every motorsport involved in one motorsport, and it's all right in front of you because it's all pretty much in a small layout, and where spectators can see pretty much everything from the start line all the way to the finishing line. So I was just mesmerized at the very start, and the fact that you can take pretty much any chassis and design it the way you want. Different engines, different wheels, different colors, different body kits, loads of different things, and I love that personalized touch as well. For me, it's called a judge sport, but I love the fact that it's also an entertaining sport. It's a sport for entertainment and entertaining fans, and yeah, it just got me from the get-go. So as soon as I saw it, I was just mesmerized and wanted to be a part of it. Again, my background then for drifting, I hung around a bit too much around the drift scene, and that's kind of how I got involved within drifting. I remember going to the Irish Drift Championships, and I remember going to the Amateur Irish Drift Championships and speaking to the lads at Drift Games, and because I only live maybe 25 minutes away from Mondello Park, I just said to the guys if they need a hand with anything to let me know, and just so happened they needed a marshal. So I went along and became a track marshals for, I think it was one of the last rounds of the AIDC, which is the Irish Amateur Drift Championship. And yeah, I got on really well, loved being a part of it, and then they asked me to be a marshal for the bigger championship, which is the Irish Drift Championship. And yeah, eventually became one of the staff members for Drift Games, and we did the Irish Drift Championship, the British Drift Championship, Drift Masters, Drift Emirates, all in, I think it was 2018. So that was an amazing time. And then I was tutoring drifting as well. I got to teach people how to drift, and I went on then to work in Murray Motorsport, which is one of the biggest motorsports distributors globally, and that was amazing working with them. And while I was in there, managed to build my own drift car and did quite a lot of track days, and then went on to compete in drifting at the time it was called the IDS, which is the Irish Drift Series, and it was during COVID, and we won't go into it, but it was a pretty messy time for the world. And then from there decided to open up my own company, and I set up a company called Driftbox, and I sold motorsport parts, especially drift parts. So the idea was that you would have one website for all your drift needs. You could literally build a drift car on one website. from there, went on to work in England at a motorsports academy. We had 3 different racetracks. We had supercars, drift cars, race cars. We even had like an F1 car. It was a EJ12 Jordan Formula 1 car, and that was really, really cool. So basically we'd have like the general public drive all these amazing cars, so you can come down and literally just drive your dream car. So that was a pretty epic job, that one. And while I was there, I decided if there was anything I really wanted to do before I settled down, what would I do? And I challenged myself, the biggest challenge that I could possibly think of at the time, and that was to basically trek from the UK to Australia, starting with no money and counting on the kindness of strangers for food, shelter and travel. So as you can see, I'm in Australia now, and we finished that project. I gave myself a year to complete that project, and a year and a half actually I gave myself to complete that project, and I completed it all in I think it was 5 months. I think 5 months I completed it. So that was really cool. We raised money then for 3 different charities. So we raised money for the Samaritans Ireland, Samaritans England, and Beyond Blue. So it was really cool just to be able to help out so many people, and it was just it was an amazing experience. Really, really was. So when I got to Australia, then I was like, cool. Now what are we going to do? Because I never really planned to do anything after this. It was always just the idea of getting to Australia, and then now that I'm here, I came up with this massive challenge to be able to drive a road legal drift car from Australia all the way back to Ireland and compete in events then along the way. So that's a bit of the background, small bit of the background. What is my next question? Let me open the laptop here and find out. It's pretty weird trying to interview yourself, but here we go. And that's my background. An overview of the project. Okay, well, we're kind of moving on to that anyway, so good question, Andy. So an overview of the project. So again, the project's called Drift Across the World. Let me tell you how I came up with the idea. So a lot of people were saying to me, are you going to do another project, Andy, or when are you going to come home, or what are you going to do? So I think if I ever was going to do another project, it was something along the lines of going back to Ireland or going back to the UK, because it was kind of a round route. What happened was when I got to Australia, I felt that even now, my whole time in Australia, I feel like I'm still part of that journey, because it wasn't like a round route. It was kind of A to B, but coming back to A. So I feel like this is almost like a halfway mark. So I really wanted to just come up with a project that would get me back to Ireland. So I started off thinking about that, and then learning from the last project. So again, for those that didn't see that project, it was called Seeking Humankind. So you can watch it on YouTube or have an old Google of it. And for me, it was really hard to create the content that was needed and also edit everything while trying to look for a place to stay that night and food for that day. So learning from that project, the 2 key things that I needed to overcome those was obviously a place to stay and some food. So having somewhere to stay every night was key for me, and then I can pretty much sustain on very little food. So I was like, okay, if I'm able to drive, that gives me transport and a place to stay, because I can stay in that transport vehicle, and then I can edit everything. So I can not only content create, but I'll have the time to be able to sit down and edit and do all that sort of stuff. And by the way, I have 0 experience of social media or editing before my last project, which was like almost this time last year. So this time last year I would have been on the project, and the time before that then I would have been just working in England. So I have maybe a year and 4 months maybe of social media experience. So it takes me ages to not only content create but edit, and for those that are not involved in the game, it's really hard to explain how long it actually takes to edit and do all the software techie kind of stuff. But if you are involved in that, I'm sure you're aware of how much effort actually is required to go into it. So yeah, it was those few things that I was like, okay, how can we come up with a project that can bring everything together into one? And this was kind of it. So what ended up happening was I went to what was called Adam LZ World Tour, which was a tour done by Adam LZ, which is from America. Some of you might know him. And Drift Games, the company that I was with, were also involved. And this camera's gone, so we're going to continue talking to this camera. Not sure what happened to that camera, but at least we have everything on the audio, and hopefully we have this camera up here. But yeah, so I went to Adam LZ World Tour, and Drift Games were involved in all that, and set up this massive tour for drifting. So I ended up going to that, and in the queue, I was with Sarah. So Sarah's the girl that I'm staying with at the moment. So me and Sarah were just talking about like the project and how I'm going to what vehicle I'm going to use and everything. And we're just looking at drift cars, and the two of us just looked at each other and we went, "Oh my god, how cool would it be to be able to just do it in a drift car?" And then that's how it kind of just unfolded. So I was like, "Oh, how cool would it be if I was able to do events? Or how cool would it be if I'm able to like go to car meets and car scenes and be able to show off like all this massive interest in cars around the world?" And it was really strange because the last project, again, I just kept running into car people and loads of different cars, and I was like, even though the project is about something completely different like Seeking Humankind, I would have loved to be able to show them the culture in the world. So yeah, it kind of came together very naturally. And then I wanted to support somebody, so I thought about it. Literally, I went to bed thinking about it, and I woke up with the idea of supporting Make-A-Wish, because for me, this is almost like a childhood dream. And if I'm able to fulfill other kids' childhood dreams, then that seems like an incredibly massive win right there. So yeah, that's how the whole project came together. And yeah, I feel like this podcast maybe has gone on a small bit. I should really time it because I have no idea how long it's been going on now. But one of the cameras has obviously had enough, so we only have one camera left. Again, for those that are watching on YouTube. And yeah, I think we'll leave it there, guys. So that's episode number 2. And again, I can't thank you all enough for your support and interest in this project. And hopefully we can just keep it going and create this small little content that I'm doing now at the moment. And again, if anyone has any questions or wants to come on board or suggestions for anything, just hit me up. And I'll see you all in episode number 3. Thank you.